Hey guys, how's it going? It is I, the real Randy Chavez. This is probably going to be the most controversial video I've ever done, and honestly, it's not even something that affects me like immediately. But there was a question posted by my friend Jackson on Facebook. It happened to be when uh, Elliot Page, formerly known as Ellen Page from the Juno movie, and she's an X-Men as well, had come out as transgender. And my friend Jackson says, "Okay, like, what's like your take on it? What do you think?" I was like, "Oh man, like this is just a really complicated situation, and it also depends on really where he questioned more of like, is it a mental illness or not?" And I was like, I have no freaking idea, but I think there's some things that we could take away based on other experiences. If you have I forget what study it was, but it said that okay, if you take like a young boy that says that, hey, I want to be transgender, I think I'm a woman, I think this is something that I feel deeply in my soul, however they, explain it. If you do nothing and you do not give them hormones and you don't, and you just let them grow up, most of them just become gay men. Most of the time, what happens is they just grow up and they just become normal gay men. Every once in a while, that it sticks though, and they're just like, no, like I do not feel right in this body, and it's like, okay, and do that. I don't believe that is the same turnaround for women wanting to transition to men. I did not read any follow up study on that. However, I do believe that giving kids, these hormones when they're young, saying like, okay, hey, let's say they're 8, 9, 10 years old, whatever, and they say, okay, before you go through puberty, an attempt to, if you don't feel right in this body, and this is the way that, again, I'll go from both sides, say that, hey, this is what we can do. We can give you these hormone blockers so that you don't go through puberty, and that by the time you're 18 and you're able to legally, consciously make this decision, get the surgical corrections and be on testosterone or estrogen, whichever way you're going, that's an option that we can do. And, that's kind of meeting at, I don't want to say a medium because I don't think it is. But, a lot of these kids where you are in the LGBTQA community, a lot of them have depression. A lot of these kids have very, very high suicide rates as well, especially in the trans community. Like not just LGBT, but like trans especially. So if that's and they're all like, no, I need this now, I want to do it. That's kind of meeting halfway. Like, hey, listen, if we want, you can do this, give you hormones, and then at 18 you can decide if you want or not. When you get older, which I think is giving a little too much, but okay, fair, meet in the middle. But at the same time, if you're a parent, if you're an old school parent that just doesn't know what the fuck that is, you just think like being gay is a phase. Like, oh, she's dead. No, it's a phase. Get out. Like whatever. If you're old school and you see like this, and you're just like, and you don't know how to handle it. You don't do any reading. You're not educated on it. You just grew up in a different time, or just a different part of the country. And then you say, hey, listen, you're not doing any of that shit. You're not doing any of this. It's just fucking be a normal kid. Their version of normal. And then they go to like their guidance counselor and they go to the state, and the state says, you have to let your kid do this or you're not fit to be a parent. We're going to take this kid away from you because that's abuse. And you're not like, how on earth do you think some of these parents are going to respond? That's again, it's a completely different world. And for most of humanity, you've had parents and rearing children went one way. You had a little bit of technology improvement every so often, but now just the last 30 years, it's just been constant, and it is a completely different world, even from 10 years, from the 80s to the 90s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, now in 2020s. It's just absolutely asinine that you expect some older people to keep up with certain things. And the world's changing so much. It is really unfair to some of these parents that just don't know, they haven't educated themselves about it, and there's just going to be a lot of heartache. And that's also why there's a lot of high suicide rates in is because you have these parents that don't understand.
Okay.
Like there's parents that just don't understand like just being nice to animals. Like no, like I'm vegetarian and I just don't believe in killing animals for that. I don't believe animals should have to suffer for that. And there's lots of arguments against that, saying like, well, vegetarian, a lot of times when farming vegetarian food, just vegetables, animals get stuck in there and whatever,
and obviously,
nutrition and okay, fair enough. Vegetarian, you have weaker bones and whatever, but there are some people that just like don't understand. Like, no, like why and religious people on top of that, like, no, God put animals on here for us to eat. So there's people like that just don't understand like vegetarianism. Like again, I was the weird one in my family when I loved animals. I spend more time on animals than people. And my girlfriend, who's a veterinarian, she's like, yeah, I can't tell my family most of like what I have. Just, and I was like, okay, so that's just being nice to animals, and that's not including people. And just there's still so many, like even in the U.S. where just there's a lot of hate just for gay people. It's like, dude, like, come on, like that. They're just people. And trans people, I think, if you have that issue, I would say if there's any, one on here that's really young, I would say, hey, listen, growing up sucks. Like it does. Growing up is weird, and your body changes, and maybe you do feel like you are in the wrong body. Maybe you do feel like this is like a situation. It is very extraordinarily hard to reverse. Stopping puberty when it's supposed to happen, and then maybe taking hormones, go through. It's just not natural, and it just takes a toll on your body. There's a parent on here that's like, hey, struggling with this, I don't know, like. I don't know. I don't know the best way to go about it. I don't have any advice on it really. But there was another theory that Jordan Peterson thought of, and he just says this is just theory, no proof of it. But he says that, okay, well, why is there many more of these cases now? Maybe because the world is more accepting. That was my answer. I was like, well, the world is a lot more accepting. I feel like the world right now is as accepting of trans people as the world was accepting of gay people in the 90s. Some were cool with it. Many were not. But again, it is a more accepting time. But he says, why weren't there more trans kids back in the day? And he hypothesizes is that it's because of imagination. When we were younger, we didn't have a lot of technology. Yes, sometimes some of us had internet. Some of us had dial-up internet in the 90s. Very slow, but a lot of the times you were still by yourself. You had to make up a game. You had to make, just whatever. If nobody was around, you had to pretend. You didn't have someone else there to engage you. You definitely didn't have a computer to engage you, like an iPad. Those didn't exist. You had, even still, if two friends are bored, what do? You make up a game. You pretend. And a lot of kids now don't have to pretend. You don't have to, because you always have something to engage you, whether it's Flappy Bird, Among Us. You have all these different things. You're not getting out that creativity. You're not developing that. And he hypothesized that manifests later in life around puberty, where they never got to pretend. And now, again, I don't know. Again, it's a working theory of his, not mine. I'm just throwing that out there. And some of it, I think, does make a little bit of sense. Okay, well, yeah, what is the consequence of not pretending ever in your life? Maybe kids do it anyway. I don't know. Me, naturally, I'm just creative and whatever. But so I'll just do that naturally. But some people don't. So that's just something I thought. I wish nothing but the best for Elliot Page now. I don't know how that's going to work in the Umbrella Academy for the next season, whether they're going to have that for him. His pronouns are he and they, I believe. Whether they're going to keep that same character, they're going to have a character arc going through that, or I don't know. But at the same time, this would be a good chance to be able to show his acting chops. Hey, I'm transitioning into a man, but I'm going to be playing a woman. That is actually pretty. That's pretty cool. That's pretty ballsy. And if, I feel like there's a lot of hate going on in Hollywood saying like, oh, there's too much whitewashing, there's too much this, too much that. It's like, all right, well, listen, not just because you have like, let's say Goku from Dragon Ball Z. A lot of people wanted him Asian. Okay, fair enough. The whole place takes place in Japan, and Chi-Chi's Asian. Most of the characters are Asian, but Goku's an alien. Like he doesn't have to be Asian, and people are upset about that. People are upset about the Ancient One um, from the Doctor Strange movies and Avengers. And it's like, okay, well, yes, she was supposed to be, but it was also kind of a racist character back in the day, so they didn't want to do that, and I think they did that to appease China a little bit. But okay, I get it. Maybe you just want an ethnically fine character for that. And was I a little bit pissed that Bane, the one of the only like brown people you have in comic books, was whitewashed by Tom Hardy? A little bit. I was a little bit salty about that. And also, that was just not that good of a script, and he just did okay job. He got jacked for it. He worked hard for that, so I'll give him credit for that. But I think sometimes you just got to act like it. Okay, if you have someone gay person, yeah, there's plenty of gay actors. There's plenty of Chinese actors and white actors and brown actors, whatever. But at some point, like you just have to act. You can't really be mad about that. I know this is kind of getting off the original subject, but anyway, guys, I love you all. Every single one of you, no matter what y'all call yourselves. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Comments are good for the YouTube algorithm. Flips. All right, bye, guys.
Patreon.
Patreon.